Hi guys, this is Lawrence from LT Racing, and this is a quick video just to introduce you to the Rookies Championship that I'm taking place in the Assetto Corsa Competizione. This is season 3. It's the first time I've taken part in it, but this is a race at Paul Ricard. Just a quick highlight reel just to show you where I started, where I finished, covering off the whole free practice 1, 2, quali and the race. So there's a lap right at the beginning, just to highlight where my performance was at, and then show you how I progressed as the whole race event took part. So please grab some popcorn, sit back, and watch how it all unfolds. There is another video if you do want to watch the whole thing with nothing cut. It's 2.5 hours long. It covers every session, but this one is just a quick overview to let you know what happened. So sit back, enjoy, and thanks for watching. Okay, so we are going to jump straight in. This is the very first lap that I have done on Paul Ricard in free practice 1. So on this one, they added another free practice. So it's free practice 1 and free practice 2. So I jumped into this free practice with just 17 minutes left to go. And this is my very first lap that I've done with very little practice. And you'll see why I'm showing you this. It's just to compare against where I was at later on in this session. As you see, I don't really know the track very well. I don't know the braking points very well. I've watched quite a few YouTube videos on track guides and where the braking points are, but until you get in the car to actually do it, it's very difficult to understand and pick up on those reference points. As everyone's aware, in Paul Ricard, this back straight is ridiculously long. And what I've done is I've configured my stream deck as a button box, so just testing out the buttons and being able to look at the lap times and being able to compare that later on. I always found, regardless of how much practice I did, that corner, a very fast right-hander after the back straight, was an absolute nightmare to get right. But yeah, this lap it's messy, it's all over the place. You won't get a good sense of the time that I was putting in because I was in the pit stops messing about with settings and trying to get the car set up right, which is still a dark art to me, so I'm still learning all of that. But I think this was well over 2 minutes, this lap. This last section is always a bit tricky to get right as well. But as we come down to the straight, we will phase in to my last practice session, so my last lap in practice. So this is the end of free practice 2 now, and I just want to show you this just to compare the 2 laps and just see the difference that a bit of practice has. So the free practice 1 was, like I said, I jumped in with 17 minutes left to go, and the free practice 2 is 45 minutes. But in that 45 minutes, we have a driver briefing as well, so you have to come into the pit stops and stop driving and dial into the Discord for the driver briefing. So it's probably around about between 35 and 40 minutes that you get, because the driver briefing is not massively long. So all in all, I would say maybe an hour's worth of practice, and this is the difference of where I can get to in an hour, which I was quite happy with. I know I wasn't the fastest in the grid by a long shot, but I was pretty happy with where I got to with just an hour's worth of practice. As you see before, my 1:57.6 was the fastest that I'd gone, so I'm nowhere near the pro times, or even the front end of the grid with the guys that I'm racing with in this series of events. But yeah, it's definitely progress has been made. Found this last section post the long straight was actually the most tricky for me, and getting the brake in, and it's a really kind of smooth left right, and getting it right was really, really tricky, but it definitely got better as the session went on. So as you can see, I'm clearly making a lot more progress. Not going off the tracks, not missing the braking points, not spinning around. On 157 I think it was. So now we're going to jump into my quali lap. So this is what I managed to put in the quali, which is, I can't remember if it's 15 or 20 minutes, the quali session. And the first, I think 4 or 5 laps I invalidated by just pushing beyond the limits of my capabilities, I think, and just going off the track, dipping wheels off where I shouldn't be dipping wheels off, and just trying to cut too many corners, or too much of a corner. Now this lap is by no means perfect, but it was something I was relatively happy with. It was the second to last lap that I could have put in. The last lap I actually invalidated at the end of the long straight and went off, and that was the end of my quali session. So this is the penultimate lap, or penultimate push lap, and I was pretty happy with it. Got a 158.8 in, I suppose, previous to this. But yeah, there's definitely more time to be found, and I do realise that I'm getting faster the more I play. But yeah, I definitely don't get enough hours into the practice that I need to be up at the top. So I actually try a completely different line through this section in the race as I kind of follow people through and see what other people do and learn from them as I'm behind. But yeah, it was pretty decent lap. It was tidy. It was a lot better than what I'd been doing before. So I was relatively happy with that. As you can see, 1.6 seconds up on my last lap. So. And then jumping into the race start, which if you follow any of my socials, you will have seen that I've put a little short on of this already, because I was super happy with how the start was going, and I was surrounded by cars and it was nice and clean, and we got through the first chicane. At least at the back of the pack was relatively clean. I know there was an incident up front which meant that I got propelled up further than I should have been, really, I suppose, for the performance that I was putting out. But this was a 5 AM race start. This first section I was super happy with, but I think with the Bentley coming back on, I just wasn't really paying attention and just absolutely punted the Aston Martin, which was a bit frustrating. But I did feel quite bad, and you'll see in a minute as I get around this corner, I do slow right down thinking he's going to join, and I was happy to let him go in front, but he just waits for everyone to go past, which is probably the right thing to do, and just felt that if I was waiting, then I should be waiting. So then I just wanted to go through to a bit of a time lapse where I'm chasing down Rob Kinsey. Pace wise, I was really, really happy. This was probably the most, the closest guy that on pace that I'm with, and I was following him around, and we're keeping pace. We're sort of putting in similar lap times, but I'm definitely faster than he is in certain sections, and he's definitely faster than me where it matters, because most of the passing happens on the back straight, and I just couldn't get within the window to get past him and make that pass work. And it's that right-hander that's just gone there that I just couldn't seem to get right. It's quite a fast right-hander as you accelerate out of the hairpin, and you just have to lift for the right-hander, which then goes into the left and onto the back straight. But I just couldn't seem to get it right and couldn't seem to get it nailed. And so what that meant was that basically as I got onto the back straight, I was just a little bit too far back from him. And you'll see in a second that I clearly make the time up on the back straight, and I catch him by the end of the back straight. But by the front end of the back straight, by the beginning of the straight, I'm just too far back to make a move like that work. And it was getting pretty frustrating, but I was following him around, and like I say, he wasn't getting away, but I just couldn't make the move work. I was pretty confident that given enough time, I would nail that right-hander and then the left onto the back straight and be able to take him on the straight, because I definitely had the pace for it, but it would have made for a really good battle. But unfortunately the guys behind were starting to catch up. I mean, I've got a 3.5 second window at the minute by this point, but yeah, they were definitely catching up, and as you'll see later on in the race, that had a massive effect on being able to catch Rob. And then as we come through, this is just like essentially this is the fastest lap of the race for me. So this is pre pit stop, and this, as far as I was concerned, it was better than my quali, it was better than my practice, and I kind of just, in my own mind, I nailed the lap for me. And I know it's still not a competitive time like at the top end, but I was super happy with like the cornering and the accelerating. But it's this corner, this is the one that I mentioned, I just couldn't seem to get the pacing right, and if I went too early, I lost the back end. But everyone else seemed to be able to go so much faster and get on the power so much earlier around that corner, and all that did was just hamper my speed down the straight. By the end of the straight, like I say, catching up with Rob, but yeah, I just wasn't close enough at the beginning of the straight. And this straight goes on for so long as well. It's clear it has to be the longest straight in the game by a long stretch. But by this point, it's still early in the race. I was still pretty happy with the pace. I was still getting better. I mean, this is the fastest lap that I did, but I felt like some of the laps later on in the race were definitely better put together, for want of a better phrase. More comfortable, smoother, with the power application and the braking and the cornering. But this was going to turn out to be a 1:56.5 flat, which I was pretty happy with, but I don't get anywhere close to that. And this is what I was referring to with the guys that had the incident on the first lap started to catch us up, and then the Lamborghini goes through, which means that I lose touch with Rob, and then the next cars start to come through, and because I've got people in the rear mirror, I'm starting to make mistakes. So as the Bentley goes through as well, and that it sort of hampers my cornering and my entry into corners when I'm close to a car in front, because I don't want to go into the back of him. But as you see, I'm starting to push and make mistakes and try not to let people pass me, or try to keep up with people that have gone past me, and it just elicits a few mistakes, which means then I'm dropping time to Rob Kinsey in the McLaren. And then this guy, Mr. Fox, it was pretty clean. I noticed he had a few incidents throughout the race, and this is going to be one of them, but I feel that I was still side by side and he just turned in, and I slowed right down, but he clearly wasn't bothered and he just shot off anyway. So then we come into the pit stop. Pretty clean pit stop. I do need to make some alterations because I have the auto engine start and stop, and that loses me quite a bit of time. And what I failed to do was turn off the bodywork repair. So I think I was stopped for a total of 37 seconds, which is quite a lot. I mean, it was a minimum stop time of 25 anyway, and if you took tyres, it was 35. But then I had an extra 7 seconds where I couldn't go because I think it was the bodywork being repaired. And in addition, the waiting for the auto engine off to kick in takes a few seconds as well. And then on the flip side of that, waiting for the auto engine on takes a couple of seconds as well. So I definitely need to sort out a button on my box for engine on and engine off. But I just need to learn how to do that because there's a couple of different things you have to do. So you have to hold one button, so I have to set up a macro to hold the button and then press the other button to engine start. So as you see, it takes a couple of seconds, or at least a split second, for the engine to kick back in. So, but then we're away. Pit stop complete, and that's the one mandatory pit stop complete. So we are good for the end of the race, unless of course you get a drive-through, So I did get my 3 warnings for track limits, as I mentioned in qualifying when I was pushing a bit too hard, and I would invalidate my laps. Managed to get 3 track limits and then go off again, so I ended up with a drive-through. Importantly though, I did finish ahead of Rob Kinsey, and that is purely because he had a drive-through as well, but then as part of his drive-through he actually had a speeding in the pit lane, so he had to do a stop and go. But yeah, I did finish ahead of him, but purely because of that.
Faster car approaching. Watch out.
And this is the last lap of the race, so as you can see we are P12 out of 17, so to be honest I was pretty happy with this result. I know I'm not fast enough to be up at the top, but if I can get into the top 10 over the next coming weeks I'll be mega happy. I just need to find the pace. So next week is Spa, so on Thursday we'll be racing Spa, and I think there's one more after that, but I unfortunately won't be able to make the last race. But yeah, I'm super happy with this performance. Lap times are not brilliant, but it was more for me about not making mistakes, and I think I only had one major issue where I spun, and then a couple of minor ones where I've kind of gone off the track and come straight back on. So all in all, I was pretty happy with it. It was a decent result for me. And as you can see, everyone around me is not actually racing against me, so yeah, it's pretty much been lapped a couple of times, and that was mainly because of the drive-through and just generally being pretty slow. But everyone has to start somewhere, so I was more than happy with the performance. It's all good practice. Managed to get quite a few laps in, so. As we come through these last corners, as you can see, like from that very first lap that I showed you in my practice, it's clearly come a long way, and the more you race the better you get, so just have to stay racing. Anyway, thanks for watching guys, and I will see you in the next one. Probably be a Forza one on Tuesday.